Alright everybody, welcome back to Clark's Place. We are going to take a look at what I'm doing with this Metallica here and show which paints we're actually using. We're using some glow blue, green, pink, and little yellow, and I think this is another green. Using some pearl, using some glitter, and then I think this is almost like a clear glow that we'll put over the top of it, and then actually some gloss as well. So looks like all these are folk art, American, just acrylics, I don't know, apple barrel, and all those are folk art, and this is American. I don't know if I'll get some red in there or not, some transparent, but we'll see. But those are all the paints that I'm going to be using here. So, and we'll see how each of these go through that gun. So, enjoy today's video. Alright, here we go, getting some things ready and stowing away some of those folk art paints underneath there and rubbing a little bit of sandpaper around, just scuffing any of the little bits off. There was just a little bit of old paint and stuff on there, so just kind of scuffed it pretty flat. You can see taping her all off, and then we're looking like we get the white out, I think, here, and just spraying some white. And I felt like when I was starting, I would kind of keep that same design that's already on it, and I was trying to save it, and I think I end up and pretty much just coating the whole thing in white as like a base primer. And the white that I'm using there isn't actual airbrush paint. I think it's that just acrylic white paint. I don't think it's actually made for an airbrush. Yeah, it looked like the regular acrylic type there. So just, I think I'm in the middle of this. I decided it just needs to be all white, and just going through coating. Yeah, you see it filling in a little bit more white there. And I think the alcohol there that's in the center of the screen, I think I was thinning that with alcohol. So that might be, yeah, that's still the white that I'm spraying. I end up spraying the glow stuff too, but one of the paints doesn't mix with the alcohol as well. I think it's the glow that I had to use just water with in order to get it to thin down. It just, when I went to mix it with, like, putting the alcohol in with the glow stuff, it just, when I went to stir it, it all stuck to the little toothpick that I was using, just all blobbed up. So I've got the reducer out there too on the center of the table, and it didn't seem to do well either, so I think I ended up basically just using water mostly. So grabbed a stencil and some pink glow paint there. You'll see I mixing it with a little toothpick, and yeah, I was using the water. That was water I was kind of eyedropping in there. And I had to thin the pink way down to get it to go through. And you can see how many times I end up having to refill the airbrush there. It just, you end up thinning it so much that I think it loses its glowiness, if that's a word. Yeah, the stencil worked out pretty good, and I was really happy with the design of that, but just not happy with how much paint was coming out of that gun. So new equipment coming. I think I've got just the plain glow color in the gun now, and you really can't see much as far as I'm looking on this screen. I'm looking at a tiny little viewfinder as I voice over here, but that I believe was just a whole sheen of glow paint that I've got in there and just kind of coated the whole thing. Yeah, that's the glow stuff I'm using there. And there wasn't any rhyme or reason to it, just trying to get a nice even coat over the whole thing there. And that attempt there, I tried to put some of that light on it and see if it would actually show, but yeah, you could kind of see there for a second with the UV light on it, kind of how it was looking there. Okay, here's my little experiment. Is those glow in the dark colors, I just put a dot on the page and smeared it, and then this is the UV light that I was telling you about in the other video. So I plugged it into a pinball machine here, just hooked it up to one of the sockets, and that's all it is. So looks like the one green all the way to the left there doesn't really shine too bright. The yellow is really good. The blue actually is gonna show up pretty good too. So yeah, pretty good. All right, move the airbrush area station over here to a different area of the garage. Just we're working on the train stuff over there, the other side over there to the right. But I think I'm starting out here and just throwing some blue, and once again I'm still using the Eclipse there, and the blue, same as the pink, is it just had to thin down so much that I wasn't happy with the results there, that it just it glows enough, but it's not what I want. I want that thing to be beaming up there. So, but you can see it's kind of taking shape there. It looks pretty decent. And I guess I could leave it like that, but I think I just want to really coat it with some blue paint and not have to thin it with so much water next time. So next airbrushing vid will showcase some new guns, and hopefully it'll come out of there a lot thicker. We'll see. Yeah, that's the gun that I was using there, the Eclipse. So now we're on to the harness portion, and I set up the Metallica sign there and the speakers just to kind of get an idea of where I want all these lights, and I throw some flashers down in the corners and kind of get a rough layout there of where I think everything is going to end up, and then I'll start the harness here. The first one I build a little bit different, and I use a connector, and there I'm just tinning the ends of them, of the wire there. So that's connected to one flasher, and then I will daisy chain over to the other one. So now those two are connected solely to each other. And then I'll take another leader length of wire. Yeah, there, I think I'm stretching it out. So I end up cutting the two that are connected there, and then the connectors there that are in the center in that little hobby kit there, I end up cutting those wires and then splicing them together with another wire that kind of stretches out the back side. So I've connected all those together with a second wire that leads down to the harness, and then you saw I heat shrunk those together, and that's pretty much it for that first harness. So the second that I start here, I do it a little different, and I end up just daisy chaining everything together. So tinning the wires, you'll see me do that 600 times in this video, but just connected and that will be that length going to the top of the screen there. That will end up going back to a harness plug as well. So I hook up the first one, and then you'll see I just daisy chain the next length of wire going over to where the next flasher will be, and there I stretch it out and show kind of exactly to the next one, with enough space to bend wires a little bit and have room to mount. So stretch out what you need, and then give it another inch or so to accommodate moving around and mounting to a piece of wood at some point. It went surprisingly pretty easy. A lot of times it's difficult to get two wires to go onto the same connector, so I pretty much tinned all the wires first, and you'll see I'm trimming the ends there, and then I'll tin those ends of that wire, both ends, and then with all the solder on the ends of those wires, they didn't come off. I probably had 3 or 4 different times that when I added the next wire to that connector, it popped off the other one, but they all went together pretty good. There I've got my multimeter out and just testing to make sure I did get the green or the white wire. They all went to the same spot on each of the flashers and didn't actually cross over to each other. So that harness was pretty straightforward as well. And then I'm starting the next one here. Same process, tin the wires and then hook them to a connector. I think I started at the end of this one first and worked my way backwards on it. Yeah, so there's that bottom right corner light, and that's just a GI light. So stripping the wires, tin them, and then then connect them. So now those two are connected, and then jump it with the next length of wire, rinse, repeat 600 more times. On each of the socket bases, each of those GI lights, I don't know if you'll catch it in the video here that you can really see, but each of those sockets, I pretty much hit them with some new solder before I actually go to throw the wire on. So I'm tinning each of the wires, and I'm also putting some fresh solder on those. Yeah, I mean, you saw in another video, if you watched it, how kind of those sockets are kind of a little crusty. They're out of some old games that we've just got a bunch of sockets laying around, a bunch of LED sockets laying around. So some fresh solder makes for quick work here, that they end up going together pretty easy. So as you're doing it, just I made sure to use the same color wire and a length of wire that I thought was long enough, and just making sure that you keep a red stripe or a black stripe on the same side of the light as it goes. I think that you can alternate with these, the GI light, but good rule of thumb is just make sure you're matching up all your colors from side to side. And so there I've got it all the way. I've got the front 4 done, and then I've got the length of wire stretched up for the left side of the speaker there. And then I think from that length there, I end up attaching a wire to the back. You see it looped around to where it would come underneath the stage there. And I hooked up a light there, and then I just daisy chained another short little length to where those will probably be, I don't know, 8-10 inches apart. And then I think my dad came in here and was overseeing, and that'll about do it for this harness too. All right. So what we have accomplished now is this GI, General Illumination harness here, is going to go down to a plug. These ends will be on a plug that you can just plug into the game. But this will come in. These two will be underneath the stage. This daisy chains out and around. And this one will be up on a speaker. Then this line will come around, feeding this corner. And then light there, here, and then this is the last one. It will go over and be up on the back of that Marshall speaker box. It'll be hanging up here in space. And then those UV lights that I've got, they just clip on. So I will clip those on and mount those on the back of the speaker somehow, some way too, and may put one or two of each of them on these harnesses. But that's that harness. And then I've got two other harnesses here. Get off of me. So these are all flashers. I've used thicker wire for these, but this is the feed for it. So this will go back and tie in with that other end of the yellow and red harness. It feeds up here. There'll be a flasher there, flasher here, flasher here, and flasher here. And then the last harness will be a light up on the back of the speaker there, a flasher, and a light up on the other back of the speaker. And then this has another length of wire that will go back and feed into the actual brick Z connector that I'm going to put on it. So that's kind of it. That's the wiring harness for the ultimate Metallica pinball topper. So next step will be actually I bought a bunch of airbrush supplies. So the next step will be hooking all those harnesses together. I'll put a little Z clip that all of those are sitting there ready, and then the Z clip, you'll be able to disconnect it pretty quickly, and then that will run in and I'll tie into certain flashers in the game, which I'll show how that's kind of done in a different video. But that's pretty much it for the harness. Next step will be I ordered a few new airbrushes. I'll show you the paints here. The glow paints that I was using, they just wouldn't go through that Eclipse gun. So I ordered a siphon Eclipse gun, and I forget the name of the other one, but I've got a couple that I think will spray those thicker paints, and then I'll actually get back to doing some business on that. So it's looking okay, but it just isn't as crisp and as thick as I would like, and it just kept clogging up the gun. So next video will be probably with the new airbrush stuff that I've got coming. So cool. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.